Hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya 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 hey ha yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo waka pepe agi ktabi ikhachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ya hey ya ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha
Super mouse.
hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pepe agik tabi ikhachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pepe agitabi ikhachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pepe agik tabi ikhachia ya bino hey yo
Haumi takujapi. Jusko on Chian Kampich on Tewastea, Johanna Page, Uzapido. Ke Elijah Hopkins Demie, Wanawa Chinjo Akpa, Dechia, Diana Hipido, Mitakujapi. Hello, relatives. Again, this is the Buffalo Chasers podcast. I am Elijah Hopkins, joined by Nekshi, Tommy Christian, and Earl Bullhead. We're in the house here on May 27th. We're streaming at you live again from Fort Peck Community College every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. And for today's topic, I'll leave that up to actually Tommy and Earl. And I do have a few announcements here for the week 34 drawing winners. Winner, win a chicken dinner. But before we do that, I would ask actually Tommy if you would share a prayer with us, get us started off in a good way.
How hecha tu upila chichia tuska. Da hichie. Doki alala wo. Ya grinkita wo. How hecha tu. Okay. Mitaki epi ushimalo ampetukile mi chante taua glake nahana pechuza pelo. Omakia naha wuchikia ambetukile. Atukashila na wakanta katateu toba unchi makana makaina. Na kumitaki epi wanagi makpea kta hocho kakta hilpo. Unshia kemitaki epi naha che mitana tushkatana. Giksi apo tiwahe tawa tiushpe tawa. Owichaki apo ushuichalapo. Atukashila na wakantaka giksi apo mitaki epi unchi makamani wayazapi na chante yoksich omani owichaki apo ushuichalapo. Atukashila na wakantaka oyate oyansi chanku luto agao mani owichaki apo ushuichalapo. Naha ake giksi apo mitaki epi naha winukchalapi wichakshalapi wakanya japi hokshilapi winchinchala kushkapi we kushkapi chanku washte upi naha we chozani upi o wichaki apo ushu wichalapo ekse wichasha mielo ohe chajemi ta wamnisha ge doba ima chapi gna gupta wuchek ge hemitawa how mitake oasi wamakashka oasi.
Oh gosh, hey, down my dex. So again, relatives, we are at week number 35 of the Buffalo Chasers podcast, and a few announcements here. So for the week 34 drawing winners, every week we do try to do a drawing. We have some jackets and some Kindle Fire tablets that we try to give them out. And so for the week 34 drawing winners for the Kindle Fire tablet is Miss Alyssa Sear. Winner, chicken dinner. Congratulations, Alyssa, Kindle Fire tablet winner. Then we also have a Super Cho FPCC jacket. The winner of that jacket is Juan Juarez Jr. Tahashi Juan Juarez Jr. Winner.
Te habla español.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Ioda.
Yeah.
So congratulations, both of you, for winning both of those items. You can retrieve those over at Student Services, the War Eagle Vision Building. Call 406-768-6370, and they will hook you up. If you don't live locally, if you're out on vacation, seeing the world, just give us your mailing address, and they'll mail it out to you. So with that, relatives, this week's topic really is, I'll leave that up to next year. Tommy, if whatever you guys want to talk about, Memorial Day weekend is on the horizon. That was just an idea that I had. Some of our relatives, they come from wide and far to recognize the deceased and pay honor to them. That's always one of the things that's happening. We have ceremonies that are reviving this time of the year. So wherever you want to go with it next.
Echatula. Okay, Daya Chano. How Doki Alala wo?
Look at my bike, Sean. Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, you're supposed to be over here. That's why I asked you.
Oh, okay.
Doning to Kawo.
You gotta get up early and look at the weather, young man.
I did. I had you do already.
Ichamo. Kind of read the signs,
Doning to
All I
Kawo.
see is a golf club hanging on it.
Doning to Kawo.
What's that?
Tezi tanka you, huh? Tezi tanka you, huh? You watch Dela? Or is that just food? Or is that just food?
Oh, yeah, man. Jesus.
Leave me alone, he said.
Talking about addiction here. Maybe we better go into addiction.
Well, that's why I'm at home. I could smoke. No, you know what
Down
I
in
was.
the office?
No, I'm at home. I was waiting for you. Figured you show up about 2:30 or something, but heck, you're still down there in
Well, we were up and looked in the weather and looked snowing.
Oh, I seen that. Yeah.
Ah, somebody has dandruff.
Tohan wauelo. When are you gonna come
Santo.
this way?
In the morning, we'll take off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll work. Because Elijah's got your Mazaska.
No, we'll try to get there early enough to get that. I'm trying
Taken
to
care
purchase
of,
some stuff. Which reminds me, we're going to be going. Do you guys do things on a purchase order there? Of course, it's off the topic here, but
No.
most places I've worked at, they give you a purchase order and you get it all filled out and turn it in and go from there.
Well, no, Elijah takes care of that. He'll do that.
Oh, okay.
But he wants to get a list of that grant. He's controlling the finance. I don't know if they do purchase orders for that particular grant. Do they, Elijah?
What I'm
Toshka?
saying is that
No,
you got to
I'll,
get it at a specific place.
oh yeah,
The main
I'll,
thing is heights.
yeah, I can visit with you later on. We can have a little separate
Alright.
meeting. We can go over. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I'll
Yeah.
work with you on that.
Oh, I will stick through.
Yeah. Then we got you guys a place to camp too, so it's a good place. Oh, just right. Holy great. But and then tomorrow they have Curly's wake at 7 o'clock ish at the cultural center, and then but you guys don't have to rush. Just get here when you get here. But you got a place to
Yeah,
camp
we-
anyway, and then the services are probably in the morning. Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna drive as
so.
fast as you do, that's for sure.
But I was thinking, Toshka, maybe we could talk about, like you said, the Memorial Day and some of these the ceremonies that are going on as it relates to Tibi Tonga, Wing Wayang Machi, all that good stuff. But how we approach those things and what we may have understood through our discussions, and not to be afraid to attend, but just to go see and participate and get that feeling of that spirituality and in a different way if they want to. They don't have to, but again, it's really important. But I think that that ability to develop one's character is it's kind of like sitting on the hill, Hamblecha. You know, you cry all night for a vision, and what you cry for in that vision is you're understanding your purpose and dedication as you walk this red road, Changu Luta Aga Umani. And then as you do that, you realize you're here for a reason, and that reason was established way before you come here. And a lot of people they try to manifest their own destiny, and they don't realize that it's already been made for them if they choose to. You see, it's not an autocratic manner. It's one that when you go beyond that fear of yourself, based on your ability to be courageous and go forward, like Chie was explained to me, tawapaha, that's an understanding of your deeds. The deeds that you do, it helps you to become stronger. So as you do those things, you can go beyond the fear of oneself to realize and understand your purpose and your dedication, so you can make good tracks on that red road of understanding, so that you can share that goodness that's there. And again, if we look back on these things that we've been doing, if we look back on the things that have been happening to the human race, it goes back to that old question. They say, you know, if one little tree, if all the trees should ever die, we'd all die. If one bee should ever die, a little bee, if all the bees died, the earth would perish. If we didn't have any more water, the earth would die. But if the humans all died and became extinct, the earth would flourish. Now, it's something like that, but the principle of that is understanding we're here for achieving that purpose and that dedication as we spend time here as a two-legged, huhu nupa, they refer to us as. And in that, we realize in that Changleshka, that circle of life, we're just a small part of it. And the trees, the insects, the birds, all those things are all a part of that. And we're here uh, learning from them in a natural law, instinctive manner. And so one of the biggest things that the reason why we humblecha is to go beyond that fear of ourself. It gives us strength to look inwardly. And once you start looking inwardly, then you have the ability to begin that healing from the inside out. Eh? Otherwise, it's kind of like when we heal from the outside in, we're kind of fooling ourselves firstly, and then everybody else. But that's a philosophical approach, eh? Because a lot of people heal from the outside in and become good people in a sense. But I'm speaking strictly from an indigenous Dakota, Lakota, Nakona perspective when I talk like that, because of such things as when we go beyond that fear of ourself and we start finding out who we are and then searching for this purpose and dedication as to why we're sent here from this spiritual energy, what I refer to as wakataka, it helps us to realize that uh, we're important. Uh, we mean something as individuality applies to us. The individualism that is something that we realize is not really a way in which is good for us, because individualism is I, me, my, and the individuality is us, we, and them. So, for the sake of the greater good, we were placed here to participate in what we refer to as uh, wichoni. And in that, we aspire to wichozani, that good, healthy lifestyle. And at the same time, through that whole prospect, uh, we always are trying to be your ally. We want to be your friend. We want to help you out when you're having tough times. And I'm preaching to the choir here and to these two individuals, but I'm sharing this because it's going to be archived, and I'd like for our younger people to understand uh, the diversity that is represented is something that is key first and foremost. And when you go beyond this assumed fear, and I call it assumed because you learn how to be afraid instinctively under natural law, you learn how to survive. That's instinct in you, fright or flight, all that good stuff. You learn how to be able to become that alpha wolf, if you will, and only the strong survive under that natural law process. And so, as you do that, once you go beyond that fear, firstly of yourself, then you can continue to go out and perpetuate this opportunity to really exercise your character development through this exercise of empathy, compassion, caring, sharing, generosity, patience, loving, all these things that so many people are afraid to do. And in that, it's very humanistic of us. I was talking to one of my brothers here earlier this morning, or yesterday actually, and I said the difference between they say, this is what they say, and it means society in general. The difference between animals and humans is humans can be rational and logical. And I said, I don't agree with that. The difference between animals and humans is humans can kill from a distance, because animals can be rational and logical. They won't go under natural law, under instinct, and just based on their instinctive ways to rationalize, well, that fire over there, I'm going to go over there, it's going to burn me up, so I'm going to run this way. That's logic. To be rational, they say, well, I'm going to take this path. This is the best path to go get water. That's being rational. Okay? So they say that, but that's an attitude of dominion. Like we're better than the animals. No, we're not. We're probably, they can teach us so much more as it relates to this instinctive value of survival. if we watch them and observe them. And that's where a lot of these character developments came from. And in that, like Hohiesa, when he wanted to share that with his non-Indian relatives, he helped them to originally begin the Boy Scouts because he understood if they developed their character, then he said they would understand how important it is to be a leader in some of these areas. And so all of these things that we've been trying to share is to help us in a good way without telling anybody, but in a good way, sharing with them to take that on in a critical thinking manner and apply it to their own life. Because we each have a life in this circle. To maintain that sense of balance, my adopted father would always kind of help me understand you got to touch base with your work, your family, your friends, your relatives, touch base with your spirituality. All these things, he said, to make that circle maintain roundness. If you too much family, he said, it goes out around. Too much friends, it goes out around. Too much work, it goes out around. Too much spirituality, it goes out around. He said, you want to make it a circle as much as you possibly can. And that's the purpose of that development of that character. And then you initially will achieve that by understanding the importance of dispelling that fear out of your life. Get away, quit being afraid, because they say, like, well, our non-Indian relatives say, with God on my side, who can be against me? Well, believe that, you know. And then, like what we say, the spiritual energy or this higher power on my side, who can be against me? There's no spirit that's stronger than that entity in which we came from. And so, but yet we're led to believe that this hierarchy exists, and we don't believe that. We don't believe we have dominion over anything. And yet that's perpetuated in a doctrine that isn't necessarily ours, but that's them. We Henielo, that's them. And we let them believe that if that's what's good for them. So that's why we don't talk against anything of their belief, because we're taught that. And that's a part of a discipline that we do. And we realize the importance of that by structuring our families to represent that. And so when we say you don't only represent yourself, but you represent your family, your tribe, and all indigenous people all over the world, that's where we help ourselves to understand the empowering opportunities that are there for us as individuals. And then we understand the importance of individuality. So in a nutshell, all that we're wishing to share here is a way to provide yourself with an opportunity to be the individual that you are, going to be dispelling that fear. And my dad would tell me, he said, you know what creates fear is confusion. He said, and then from that fear, from that confusion will come fear. From that fear will become anger, and from anger will become acts of violence. He said, but how you stop that initially is you provide clarity. And again, that's something that I think our podcast can do for us. And that's why we're wishing to utilize this podcast to interrelate with one another, understand we all have different perspectives. We afford ourselves the right of our own integrity without infringing or imposing on anybody else's right to exist, but at the same time, affording that self-respect to understand that hey, people are depending on me as well. Even though they may not say it or show it or anything, they realize the importance of that. So that's why this podcast is really key and important to address those mental health aspects of how humans are, how human beings live, how they choose to live. And if you think about it under natural law, and I put a lot of thought into this, I contemplated it lots about this COVID came about at a time where the humans needed that, not us. And if we fear death, then this next place, we're questioning where we go next. That's why we don't have a word like goodbye in our language, because we know there's another place. I have a strong belief about the Mayans, the Anastasias, or whatever they were called. They're no longer in existence. Everybody wants to wonder where they went. And I have a strong belief in, because of their ability to understand mathematics or geometry or whatever, they learned how to get to that next dimension. And I think that's why there's no indication of them. That's what I believe now. I'm not trying to influence any of you, but it's just food for thought. And I think that's what happened, because technologically, they've been finding out like the Mayans were far beyond any technical thing. We talk about the phone and internet, not the Mayans were even beyond that. And yet we don't afford them that opportunity, because you got to recognize the source that was really questioning the humanness of indigenous people. We weren't considered even being human, eh? And so the source that was putting that information out wasn't always the truth. And so once we go beyond that, and that's why that critical thought in our podcast is key and important. And that critical thinking is really, if you think about it, it's based on one's spirituality. It's one's ability to oichala or woichada, that faith, that belief. And again, a reason I say this is because, there's so much reference to the pipe. And me and Chie, we had this discussion. Well, what did you believe in before the pipe? You see, there's a little bit more to it than a lot of our contemporary indigenous people realize. There's more to our way of life than the pipe itself, although we follow it and we understand when somebody gives you a pipe, they're giving you life, and we should try to respect that. But what was before that? And that's where this basic understanding of who we are as an indigenous people, that we realize it's grander than we think, because our minds, we're just taught to think about the pipe. It's the main thing. Well, there's something even before that, that's where my teachings evolve from, eh? And then they get all uproared because it doesn't fit their way of belief, or their superstitious way of belief. And what about this? Hey, I'm not here to question anybody's understanding, but that cognitive dissonance, even amongst us indigenous people, will come out based on that fear. Now you see how that all connects, Toshka? Does that make sense, Chie? Can you relate to that, brother man?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah. And so as we do these things, we understand that the human being, if there is a hierarchy, guess who'd be number one? The plants. Guess who'd be number two? The insects. And number three would be all of the animals. And then last would be the humans. That's the point I was trying to make based on my initial little talk there. But there's not a hierarchy, because again, you're all common people, and I'm a common people. And in that, we try to gain that spiritual belief. And it's not a religion, because we don't have a doctrine we follow. It's a spirituality, because we're following a protocol in which to maintain a connection to the spirit world, which is our reality. And the reason I mention that is because what's going to go on here tomorrow and the next day and the next day over here in Oswego, north of Oswego, with the Tibitonga, that big lodge that they're making over there. And as they do those things, they're going to wish to maintain that connection with the spirit world, which is our reality. They talk about all these epiphanies or interactions with the spirits and stuff like it's a joke, or like they're playing. We don't play. To us, that's real. Our relatives are over there. Our relatives are something that needs to be respected, and in a good way. They're helping us recognize the importance of sustaining ourselves, not just in body, but in spirit, giving ourselves an opportunity to live. And so on Monday, we always go out and we leave food at our people's graves, not for them per se, but to help us understand the importance of the respect that we need to have for ourselves so that we can continue to feed our spirit, not just in a vegetables and meat way, but also in a spiritual way too, by acknowledging that diversity that exists out there through our ceremonies and our languages, but the uniqueness that we represent, representing our family and our tribe and ourselves through following the protocol wherever we came from. And so in that, once we can relate to that, and then we can accept that spiritual aspect of living in the manner in which we were intended to live even before we got here. So, I just wanted to share that with all of you because, again, one of my brothers, one of me and Earl's brothers, has gone to the other side, and he just recently passed. And Earl's hopefully can make the wake and the funeral at the same time, get some business done up here. But we shouldn't be afraid of that. And I witnessed so many times people relating stories of near-death things, and they said they come after me, but they wouldn't look at me. One of the old guys that just had his 94th birthday, his name is Willard Miller. He shared this story with me when I was younger. He called me to his house and he sat me down. We had tea, and he said, "I wanted to share this with you, my nephew, so that you can share it with people." He said, "I had a near-death experience," and he did. He almost died. He is, maybe 30 years ago. And he said, "I went over there, and boy, it's a beautiful place." He said, "It's real." He said, "I was there, but none of my relatives would look at me." And he said, "I got up there. I want to stay here. Hello, I was happy to see them." He said, "No, you got to go back. You got to go back." And he said, I thought I died and made it here, but they sent me back," he said, "because I wasn't done with my purpose here." That come from a man that had no reason to lie or compromise or play Indian or nothing. That come from a man that was very truthful. He was a veteran of the Korean War, highly decorated, and he shared that story with me because he knew how I lived. He knew what I was looking for, and it was a time when I aspired to really connect with the spiritual world. And before Curly left, Dylan was, my nephew was there with him, and he said, they came for him, his relatives, and Dylan said he kept looking up and said, "Dad, you want to go?" And Curly said, "No, not yet," and he didn't. But then they came back again and said, "Dad, you ready to go?" And then that was the next day, and he said, "Yeah, I'm ready," because they come for him. Eh? So now, people, you have an opportunity to be an optimist or a pessimist in that regard. You can believe that based on how we maintain that connection with our spirit world, or you can just say, that's a story. It's not a story. It's a reality. And so what they're doing over there, what they're going to do this weekend on the hill is they're going to maintain that connection through a lot of suffering, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of wuchikya, heartfelt cries in respects to connecting and maintaining that connection in a respectful way based on the ritual or the protocol in which we follow. Does that make sense, Toshka? Yeah, you think you could agree with that?
Oh, no. Wala, tona minutes still wagon like you wanna.
Huh?
It's 4:36. So omelet makai. You started this conversation,
Yeah.
and I can only relate to a life's experience.
Oh,
When you're raised in a village, like so many of us our age,
yeah.
where nothing but your language is spoken.
Oh,
There's a transition you go through about learning this new language, this dominant language, or this process. So many of the things that we were taught or we remember on special occasions, to me, You know, my uncle was a singer. Most everybody in my community that I called uncle were singers, and they sang, you know, in their language for
Mhm.
every aspect, you know, honor song, you know, in every
Yeah.
in the language.
Oh.
Well, I grew up in that environment. That didn't happen very often,
Mm-mm.
just on special days.
Oh.
And so when they said, "Ona wokiksio chapke henans, akichio chapke henans, betut chapke ulo,"
Oh.
that lighten up our day, because
Mhm.
what we remember was apples and oranges on the grapes,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that imprinting from that, because you know what it is that we used to have to nourish ourselves, wild plums and this, you know, it was made into wojapi and you know wasna and all that kind of stuff, and that only happened when they had ceremonies or people had made enough for everybody.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that day was special to us.
Oh.
And so you know we couldn't, you know, how would you say? Now think about it. And so, well, let's go over there and see what they're doing. And you had elderly people up there cleaning graves and tidying up the place, you know, and
Yeah.
getting rid of the old stuff and, you know, get everything ready. Well, the truth of the matter is nowadays, since we live in this hectic world, oftentimes we do our best, but sometimes we just can't make it.
Yeah.
You know, either we're off funerals or something. So oftentimes there's still a lot of people that visit those sites even after Memorial Day
Mhm.
for themselves, for their own healing, you know. And one of the things that we have amongst our people is, you know, the wiping of the tears.
Oh.
They tell us, you know, you can't mourn forever.
Mhm.
We have relatives, I have friends that are still mourning, even though their relative and friend has been gone many years.
Oh.
And so, you know, it's something that they choose to live by. When I lost my oldest son, first time he ever drank, first time he ever let him go home, away from home with a friend. He was a silversmith, you know, because of that experience or experiment, he cost cost him his life.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to take, you know. You know that.
Oh. Oh.
So the process of getting through that, if it hadn't been for a lot of that wisdom and words that are used, and I remember always that word hitting home all the time, coming from different family members throughout the community or even other communities. They say, "Blahich ayo,
Oh. Oh.
blahich ayo,
Oh.
doksha icheli ekte." It will
Oh.
come to pass.
Yeah.
So over the years, with all the relatives and friends that I've lost, I've had experiences where sometimes I have indecisions that I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing. So I go to the older guys that know more about it than I do.
Mhm.
I composed a song for a family here in Fort Chase, and I found this. So I made a copy and gave it to her granddaughter, and she was so happy to get it. Oh, geez, thank you very much. But anyway, I talked to Lala Joe, and the wording in that is "Machpiatakia yakigalaya." That's in the word. And so what that really means is towards the Mother Earth. Now you have gone back to Mother Earth.
Mhm.
And so I said, well, Omagana ish. What about people that think more of a modern day belief? And
Yeah.
say, so he said, hey, she said, I said, Makha, Makpiata, Yakiagala. Put them both into your song.
Huh?
And so that's what I did, you know. So here's two worlds that can be put together to help people mourn and get over and move on, you know.
Yeah.
So the thing that brought to mind all of this stuff is when you get at a certain point in time, at a certain age, you start thinking about, you know, what have I forgotten? How much have I forgotten? And one of the things that came up right away is, did I go to Uncle Bill's funeral graveside last year and clean it up? Or did I go to Lala Barney's? Or did I go to Grandma Ida Beartooth? And you start thinking about all those relatives, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, an immediate plot. We take care of that. But here's my grandpa, my namesake, laying to rest way up north from the graveyard where they're at. How'd that separation take place? You know, he was a World War II veteran. He got that bonus. And anyway, and so I said, why was this ignored for so many years? And why wasn't I told these things? So I had to learn those things by research myself, because I asked myself, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Who you
having
got
that
your name
yeah,
from? Yeah.
Yeah, my Christian name.
Mm-hmm.
My Lakota name came from Auntie Bessie Brave Thunder, who was lived with a railroad worker in Poplar, Montana. His name was Dave Lev. And she left, journeyed on before he did. So he spent his last days in Woolwich. So how would you say I got to understand, that things that happen to us in this world sometimes are maybe far apart, but the values still remain.
Oh, had you to.
So
Oh.
when I go back and contemplate things that I need to be aware of, as to put them into the right perspective in people's minds about the character of their relative and what that person was like when they left us or journeyed on. I can't help think about the day I decided to grow up,
Yeah.
Ichicha.
Oh.
Ichicha. It's a self-reflective.
Yeah.
Think about what's within you and how you reflect to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about that, and I said, well, I cried for my aunt. And ironic, this is the fourth time I was in treatment. The other two, I talked my way out of it. I was good at that, And the fourth time, she went into a coma. So they took her from Bear Soldiers or McLaughlin up to Bismarck. And they called me, so I left treatment. They gave me permission to come back for that. And anyway, on the way going up there, weaknesses, Yeah. And so I bought some hard liquor, and I was snipping on that, popping a bus and getting up there. And when I got to the hospital, didn't know how to control any of that stuff in my emotions. So when I got to the hospital, there's all the family, except for a few that weren't there. And I saw my aunt, and she was a Women's Army Corps. Mm-hmm. And in the way she raised us, a very disciplined life, front and center. And she couldn't believe that was her, and everybody said they were going to get some rest and start preparing for things. And so I said, I'm staying. And I stayed, and it was just her and I in the room. And I started thinking about all that stuff she had done for me, and I fell asleep. And I woke up that early that morning. So for the first time, I prayed with emotion that was very, very hard or very difficult for me, because how am I going to express myself to this woman that's done everything for me? Mm-hmm. And so I did my best, but I cried. Don't leave us. Don't leave me, Auntie. I need you. Please don't leave me. Not yet, Auntie. And then I sat there and I cried so hard for so long that I finally I fell asleep. somebody shook me and get up and they said, Mom's opening her eyes.
Oh.
My sister Velia. So I got up and looked and she was waking up. You know, she's an old vet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So she got up and she looked around. She said, who in the heck, use a harsher word, was crying for me? You know, and they all looked at each other and I looked around. And I had to face reality, the truth.
Yeah.
So I said, hear me out.
Oh.
She looked at me like that. She said, I'm going to tell you, all of you, something. She said, listen carefully. She said, I was so happy. She said, I was holding my mom and his hand and my dad's hand, and they were walking me away. They're walking me in a distance where there was so beautiful, peaceful, and quiet, serenity. She said, they were going towards this light, she said. Old Jean's a little earthquake, and there's lots of this brightness. It was just
Bright,
clear. Didn't hurt your eyes. Anyway, she said, there they stopped. And here, Grandma said, there's somebody that still needs you.
Oh.
He says, you need to go back.
Oh.
See each other again. You know, she said, there is such a place for us.
Oh.
Some people call it heaven. Some people call it happy cutting grass, happy. There's names for it. But she existed for another 4 years after that. And that day that I cried and prayed was my first day of sobriety. Now I've forgotten how long it's been. Yeah.
Yeehaw.
You know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so when we think about those things, those imprints that we have as people, the one thing that we do and have to learn to do is learn how to share it with others.
Oh.
Any other time in my life, I wouldn't tell anybody about this stuff. But the way things are going and the way I see things, lots of people need to know, you know, and they have similar stories also. We all have those values. We all have those dreams, those thoughts. And so I said, no, I can't hold these in anymore. I'm not afraid to talk about these things on any issue, you know. Sexuality, abuse, and all that stuff. We've been through that. And so I always put that in my prayers and say, give me understanding. You know, Ushimayalo.
Yeah.
Give me purpose. Give me a goal so I can attain it. And
Pishni. Yeah.
So life is nowadays, on my age now, I'm going to be 73, it's getting more precious and more precious.
Got more past than you have future, brother, man.
Yeah, it's coming, you know, but you know, so be it, you know. And to me, that is serenity. You know, that is something that is precious to our people.
No fear. Yeah, no fear.
Let nature, let things that are taught to us go into play, because geez, we've done our best. I have. Even with all the faults, we've come to this far. And I don't mind sharing this because I've told a lot of my students, I said, when I was small, I used to pass out. Just playing or something, I just go out. And they start noticing that. But I didn't know what it was. I just thought it'll pass and go away. But it's something that my mother was concerned about. And so one day, we were playing on these wagon wheels. They made a circle, so we were playing on that. Pants. No shoes on. We ran around barefoot. Anyway, they were building a fire at the grandma's house down there. Wachta, they call it. Alice Wachta. They were making pits, you know, fire. They were hauling water and stuff, and they were harnessing up the wagon and the horses. And one of those uncles hollered, "Yoktai." We looked at Mom. So she said, okay, I go help. So we ran over there, caught up to the wagon, jumped in. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't know what they were doing. We just were happy to be in a wagon and cruising down the road, bumpy as it was, went to the creek, went up the road and went around the butte south of Bullhead. And there's a creek, they call it Wanachiwakwa. I didn't know that at the time,
Goose Creek.
because a lot of people hid there from the arrest of Sitting Bull. So there was just a little tiny stream. And these guys got out and they had these long poles, rolled up their pants legs, and they started wading in that creek, sticking sticks underneath the banks. Oh, God, why don't you watch it?
Oh, okay. Got one.
They pulled out this big snapping turtle, big long tail.
Yeah.
They carried it over, threw it in the wagon, and start calling it to us, like going like this. Jeez, I got no shoes on, and jump back. Holy smokers, kea, they call it.
Yeah.
Kea.
Yeah.
And started hollering, oh, I made you and they pulled in another one. And so then they were laughing because these were standing up there. But they put them in potato sacks, and they, that's all we need.
Yeah.
We went back. And the fires was going, boiling water. And that's all I remember from that, because it was hot out and it was midday or so, And so I must have fell asleep. And I must have kind of, it's too big to carry. So they must have just kind of walked me over to when it was dark.
Rolled you over there.
The man that was the ceremony, he was blind. So anyway, not knowing what was going on, I just leaned up against my mom and catching up my sleep. But I noticed they had a lantern and they had a bowl, and he was praying about longevity. And he would say, he said, Yoha Wochika Kagam. She said, we chose on it.
Yeah.
He said, with this, through prayers and what's given to us, he said, we'll have a healthy life.
Good, healthy life. Yeah.
So when it came down the line, my mom woke me up. She said, Kikta. They're just a little ways. So they finished out, and then they stepped in front of us. And they asked my mom, she said, she said, yeah, Nietzsche. She said, he's the one that needs it. But I don't know what that was about. But if it was anybody else, I would know, no way, I would have just ran home or something. But mom was right there. And anyway, so he started praying. And he knew my Indian name.
Oh.
Anyway, so they came up and they took this bowl and they showed them. I looked down inside there. There's little pieces of meat in there. And they were beating. I looked at that like this and stepped back and was like, what are they going to do here? And the old grandpa, he said, hey, Koshka, he said, Yuha, Wakha Ekwake. Napcha, he said, Vichoni Treha Luhakte.
Oh.
You'll have a long, healthy life.
Long life, yeah.
And so if it wasn't for my mom, you watching her. I put it in my mouth and it was still beating.
Oh.
Yeah. I swallowed it, and it's like that sensation's internal. I sit there like that. I says, what's going on here? What's going on here? Well, as the time evolved, years later, I started to understand what that was.
Yeah.
And hardly anybody performs that anymore.
A turtle ceremony,
yeah. I don't know what's required of that or how they do that anymore, but what I do remember is that I'm having all these issues health-wise now. I have what they call a regurgitating heart valve.
Mm-hmm.
One of my valves in my heart doesn't open as wide as the normal heart. Two are stuck together. So I don't get that full circulation of blood. I played football, basketball, track, cross country, swimming, active life, not knowing that. you know. And so I think to myself, "Uopila tanka," you know,
Yeah.
I give thanks for that.
Yeah.
You know, so
Michoni
those
Haska
kinds
Yoha.
of things.
Yeah.
So those kind of memories that are imprinted in your mind, you know, those are the kind of things that are valuable for people to hear about,
How?
because those things don't exist anymore. And then if they do, I haven't heard of anybody doing that. But they had that at one time.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah. They used
One
to
of my,
catch those. They used to catch those snapping turtles with sticks because they'd bite those sticks and then they'd pull them out. Remember?
yeah,
You're-
we were after our toes, man.
Yeah. They'd
They
bite
don't
them
let go
sticks.
yet.
Yeah.
These were huge, man.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to be 100 years old. So I think about that kind of stuff. And my miss just said, "You never told me about that, you know?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I just realized it, what the ceremony was for at a later time in life. I didn't
Yeah.
want to scare you."
Uh-huh.
So
Catch it too.
other than that, you know, things have been good. I mean, you know, as long as you learn to relax. Hardest part, you know, is learning how to say "oakishni."
Wakish.
I can't do
I
that.
can't do it.
I
I
can't
can't
do
do it.
that.
Yeah.
I can't.
Hey. Yeah.
So can you come over into this? But if it's feasible, and I'll get making an effort. You know, if there's
Yeah.
tobacco involved, I'll make an effort. But if it's just "dochinche," I say "oakishni."
Yeah. Yeah.
You go see this guy, he'll help you.
Yeah. He'll help you.
I'm not familiar with any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've been very fortunate that some of my students asked me to come over and help them with their ceremony with their plumes for graduation. I never thought I'd be ever doing that in my life. You know, and it's the songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, I know the songs. You know,
Yeah.
spoken that, you know, there might be a few words that may be extended too long or not, you know, pronounced correctly, but I come pretty close to it. You know, I study it a lot, you know.
When-
So anyway, so I thought I'd share that with you.
Oh,
See if you-
Echituelo. You know,
you know,
Chie,
because-
that you said those two words brought back this phrase that I'm trying to understand. We chonagi ob omani.
yeah, it's walking with the spirits.
Yeah, yeah. And Elijah, Toshka Elijah, do you understand Dok Chinkche?
I think
Any
like any old someone.
old way. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he's
Lackadaisical, yeah.
talking. Lackadaisical.
Just kind of
Just any-
somehow.
One,
Yeah, yeah.
the one I liked was my mom. She used to say, "Isha makechti." She used to say,
Yeah,
the kids. She said, you know, I said, "Dr. Chai, Isha makechti." She said, "Monkey see, monkey do." Like,
yeah, yeah.
Yo, Chinche. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, yeah, Dok Chinkche. Yeah, it's kind of any old way. Just, but no, that's kind of what it's all about, and you know, it gives a. And I hate to do that. I hated to do that, especially when I sat on the council. I didn't have to give credence to my life, and if you think about that, that's kind of redundant. You're trying to give life to life, trying to share with them an understanding of how I live. And then in the end, it all ended up, they said I was racist because all I did was go to powwows and ceremonies and hang around Indians. But again, that's how far removed we were from what Chie was talking about. And those that turtle ceremony. And you'll find our people will try to be representative of that attitude by taking that umbilical cord and sewing it in that lizard or that turtle. Remember how that worked, Chie?
Yeah.
That they sew that
Yeah.
for the long life, eh? But the ceremony, like he said, it's still there, but nobody does it because we live too fast, eh? That takes time to. You got to do those things, and again, to fulfill your purpose and your dedication, there's ways in which we can do it if we don't do it like Dok Chinkche. Like a lot of people think, well, I'll do it tomorrow, you know, just kind of patronize our way, but they should understand the importance of that protocol, or the understanding of the stories that are shared to us. That's our reality. And my older brother is sitting right there. He's proof of that, just based on what he just shared with us. And that's what the younger people would learn if they would take the time just to go visit. And that's what I mean when I say, just go visit an older fella, winukshala, wichakshala, an older person that you hold dear to your heart, that will share with you the truth, that wo wichake obomani. And you know that that's what they do. They walk with the truth, and they have no reason to lie to you, because they're getting ready now to, again, like me too, I have more past than I do future, and I understand that. So I'm not trying to get into heaven, what they call heaven. I don't have a death wish, but it's just the way that we live, in our thought, in our talk, in our actions, tawapaha, our deeds. And they always call it the flag, but people get confused when you literally translate a word, when we accept it as a flag. It doesn't necessarily mean a flag when we literally translate it. It means your deeds, representative of those deeds on the battlefield by our agichita. That's what tawapaha geabado. Is that true, brother man?
Oh, yeah. You know, oftentimes you run into things that kind of give you thoughts about how children are so observant, you know. This teacher came into the classroom, and she was standing in front of her class. She was talking to her students, and she said, I'd like to ask you, any of you ever think about what they mean by being stupid? Has anybody ever said that to you? Nobody answered, you know. She was standing in her, and she said, well, if you ever do feel that, she said, I can help you. She said, so don't ever feel that way. She said, if you feel that way and think you're stupid, she said, don't be afraid to stand up and express yourself. So a little boy stood up. He said, thank you. She said, what are you thinking? She said, well, he said, little boy, he said, I thought I'd stand and support you because you're standing here all by yourself.
They think she's stupid. I don't want you to be all alone.
So I come to help you support you.
Hey, Lila with coach, yeah.
So I'm working on the Tala and Lakota. That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. Tushka. Magarushta, wana golfing ekta maninkte.
Holy
Nachni. Yeah.
5:05.
Where does the time go when you're having a good time? Well, next year he has some golf tournament or league or something he's got to go to. But I really appreciate you gentlemen sharing. I think a lot of people really do appreciate that. So mitake pi doksta kewachia kapikte petuaste yuha.
Oh, echitu. Doksha ke.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Hana ke watchte.
Fort Beck Community College, Ukiebino, yo, me too, gashi, dagush, kashka, yogi, piano, yo, wata, pebi, agik, tabi, ichachi, ya, bino, hey, yo,